public-private partnerships are going to be key to achieving growth and development. I spoke to Dr. Ken Kwaku, Director of Africa Investor, and asked him about the significance of business leaders coming together to talk to ministers at this stage.
No, because I remember in this same venue a couple of years back when the NEPAD Business Council was started, that the government told the business community, we are inviting you to the driver's seat. Instead of sitting in the back and complaining, come and join us in the driver's seat. So it's been going along. We talk about private sector being engine of growth. We talk about the enabling environment. But it is time to get real. It's time for the private sector to say, look, we have ideas. We are the creators of value. We are the people who keep these economies going. And, bring us in. And suddenly also, with what is going around in the world, African governments now realize that indeed, private sector. Increasingly also, if you see people like President Kuroma of Sierra Leone, you having, President Johnson Sirleaf, of Liberia, you having ex-business people now becoming presidents. Yeah. People who have credible business backgrounds and therefore appreciate, what the business community brings to the table. And, my hope after seeing it all these years, as I mentioned, this is my 10th coming. I spent 31 years in the World Bank Group. I was the director for Africa for MIGA, that helped promote, investment into Africa. I have seen a change,
Well, let's touch on specifics then, because at this morning's opening session, a lot of the talk and the discussion was centering around getting down to the detail. Are we starting to see evidence that we are getting down to detail and we're not just talking?
You're talking about 7 clusters into 17, programs with 49 specific projects. 49 specific projects that cover the key areas of infrastructure. The infrastructure is so central to growth. And as economists will say, the value of infrastructure is not in its creation, but in its use. So if you put a road there, unless you use it to transport goods, it's not economically valuable. If you put a port, agribusiness, we're talking about, food crisis. For Christ's sake, Africa has probably got more, arable land than other parts, but our agribusiness, a sector where women particularly are key players. You heard about the horticultural industry in Uganda, Kenya, is 80% women. Other than South Africa until recently, sub-Saharan African countries have been net food importers. Unless we do something about agricultural production and agribusiness. And these are the key sectors, energy. So I think those specific and African investors' real value is dealing in the financing of specific projects.
Let's look at some of the challenges then of developing a continent-wide industrialization strategy. Some of these countries have different regulatory frameworks. Are we looking at harmonizing those different regulatory frameworks, or is it a case of each country looking at its own specific needs?
The challenge is not the harmonization. The challenge is getting the right policies, And you have the various blocks. I'm so excited about these efforts now by EAC, COMESA, and SADC. As we speak, I'm in the process of helping develop, strategic vision for ECOWAS. As we speak, I'm in the process of helping the COMESA investment area. It is doing the right things. It is understanding clearly that the foundation is a facilitating, business environment. And that an improved and a reformed and attractive business environment is not only technical, it is political. You have to watch what President Wade is doing in Senegal, fighting those who resist reform, by throwing his political support behind it. So I would say, let's get the right policy environment and then make sure that we are all on the same page. I want to see Africa do more of innovation and technology adaptation. It's not everything that we have to reinvent. If you look at how Uganda has built its fishing sector, the Nile perch sector, into a competitive industry. If you see how Chile, Argentina, all of these guys have built their wine, it is taking technologies from France, from California, and from Australia, and adapting them.
And not reinventing.
And not reinventing the wheel. Ghana started a bit with tuna, but then, they messed up along the way. It is, we need to invest more, and this is where the role of the state is key.